Hello BookTube, I'm here with another video. I just watched a video called My Oldest Books by Michael K. Vaughan, who ripped off, just shamelessly ripped off the idea, you know, from another booktuber and with a book. And, you know, shame on you, Michael. But I'm going to steal it off you. Anyway, and Michael showed his oldest books, and you know, Michael, they are relatively new, the ones you're showing. You know, I've got some new books as well, but we'll go through those in a minute. I think yours was the 1872. You know, that's getting very, very new. You know, especially since the the first printed book was in the 1500s, you know, so yeah, that's pretty new. So I got some new ones as well, as I say. Nice little book here. It's a bit smaller than a mass market paperback, but not much. And this is volume 8, as you can see. Well, where do I move it around here? Volume 8. And it is volume 8 of The Spectator, and it's volume 8 and the last. Not the last, the last. It's one of those characters that there's an S, as it looks like an F, but it is last. And this was was printed by J&R Tonson at Shakespeare's Head, over against Catherine Street in the Strand. What a wonderful address for a publisher. And this is 1739, and it has a contemporary signature and date from 1739 as well. And The Spectator was a daily publication that was put out in 1711 to 1712 on a daily basis by Joseph Addison and Richard Steele. It was just a one-sheet paper printed on both sides, double-columned, and it was just like an essay. A couple thousand words, 2,500 words, and it just talked about various things, more to the middle class of more or less London. It was revised again in about 1714, but one of the either Addison or Steele, one of them was not part of it. And this is one of the earlier collections, and it's been collected together so many times, and it's a wonderful, wonderful publication. Now, we move ahead in time a little bit. And we've already seen this book in Hours in My Library, but it's The Works of Jonathan Swift. It's volume 11. And this is 1766. So we're moving ahead in time a little bit here, because I'm going to go from oldest to newest. And this is very similar. It's a bit bigger in size than the Spectator volume, but it's similar size. This is probably more like, or slightly bigger than a mass market paperback. They're both leather bound. I think everything I'm showing here has some leather on it. And this also has the figure for the S. There's a special name for it, which just totally escapes me now. See, that's where, you know, after you watch this, you can search the internet and learn something more. That's the beauty of this. So yeah, so it's just a collection of writings by Jonathan Swift. So, and then moving ahead again is The Seasons by James Thompson, to which is prefixed The Life of the Author by P. Murdoch, D.D., Doctor of Divinity, and F.R.S., Fellow of the Royal Society, and an essay on the plan and character of the poem by J. Aitken, M.D. And this is printed for Wilkie and Robinson, J. Walker, Cadell, and Davies, Scattered and Letterman, and it just goes on and on and on, but 1811. Now, this is between like the late 1700s and early 1800s, there were hundreds and hundreds of editions of this poem. It dates back to the early 18th century. It's sort of, it's religious, but it's describe a poem of the seasons. Now, in 1806, John Clare, the poet, was 13 years old, and he was working. You know, he was cleaning pots at the pub next door, tending horses and things like that, and he had just odd jobs. And he was given a copy of this by a weaver, a local weaver, and he read a little bit. He read as much as he could, but he was transfixed by it. And he cobbled together enough money, and then on a Sunday, he walked to Stamford to the bookshop, but it was closed, so he couldn't get it. So but during the weekday, he was tending horses, so he still wanted to go the first weekday, so it probably was the following Monday, and he paid another kid some money to look after the horses. So he buggered off again to Stamford. He bought the book, and he didn't want to be seen reading in public. So he jumped over a wall into a garden of a big estate, and he sat there for most of the day reading the book. So that was 1806. I'd love to get an 1806 edition or slightly before, because it may not be exactly 1806. But this is the closest I could get, was 1811. And I just loved that fact that, so that means because John Clare was born in 1793, so that means he was beginning to write poetry basically by then. He would have been 18 at the time that this came out, and in 1820 he published his first volume of poetry by John Taylor, the London publisher of Keats, and on and on and on, and beginning of the London Magazine as well. They so he was in the process of, in 1811, of writing poetry. So this is a neat connection that I have, and I like that connection. Okay, let's move along now. This is volume 1 of 12, I think, volumes it is, and this is 1816, printed for Nichols and Son. And this is the first volume. It's the works of Samuel Johnson, a new edition in 12 volumes. It says right there. This has been rebacked, so the binding was bad, but somebody's done a pretty good job. They've backed it with cloth, and it looks like they've used some. They haven't replaced the end papers. It just sort of opens. They've done it a really good job of this, and they've got a paper labels on each, and they've aged it, made it look like it's old. So that's kind of neat. So it's rough. These are not leather. So this is the one that's not leather. There's no leather on this. This would have been the original binding, the boards, the paper covered boards on this. And this volume, well, the whole volume has a whole bunch of well, I don't think it's the complete works. This is 1816, so it's not quite complete. But it has all of his stuff. It doesn't have his dictionary, though. It's got all his essays for the poets, separately, without the poetry. Now, moving along again, this is a really cool set. It's rough, in rough condition, but it's one of, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 volumes. Now, this compiles a 30-volume set. It's maybe hard to believe, but it does, because the volumes were smaller. They would have been about this size, the Johnson Swift that came out a few years before this, but they had big printing as well. Now, you ask, what is this? This is the British Essayists, containing The Spectator, which we already saw, Tattler, Guardian, Rambler, Idler, Adventurer, Connoisseur, Mirror, Lounger, World, Observer, Knox Essays, Ola Perdita, and Microcosm. This is the University edition. This is volume 1. This is 1828, published by Jones and Company. And it says, consisting in 5 volumes, the 45th of Okay, so 45 editions of other editions. It's small print, though, and double column, so it's very difficult to read. But I could not afford a proper, bigger set of this. And there's a little bit of differences in a few of the selections, like the John Knox's essays and stuff. Sorry, there are long ago. Well, I'll deal with that later. Bent over things, so I got to be very careful because it is fragile every time I open it. And this is, I forget the guy's name. Chamberlain, I think, is the one that did it. So that's 1828, and then it's got in one volume notes of the Spectator. So it's got editions, dates, and this is 1827 there. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I think it was Chamberlain that did this. But anyway, it's fabulous. It's got all the essays, all great stuff in this. And it's one volume, and it was relatively cheap for that. And I'm really glad I got it. So, let me check. Now, I think, what's this one here? Are we going into really new book? Yeah. Now we're moving ahead into new books. This is 1870. Full leather. And this is Essays, Historical and Biographical, Political and Social, Literary and Scientific by Hugh Miller. 4th edition, 1870. Published in Edinburgh, William P. Nimmo. And this is English Language Prize, first class, awarded to M.J. Turner in July 1872. And that's Wimbledon Schools. These are things that I like. I do have a lot of these, and I do pick them up, or I have done in the past, when I see them, because I like the idea of them, these prize ones. Usually they're bound for the school, but it has a blind stamp on it, and usually with gold, and this is rubbed off. And it says July 1872, and then usually a sticker with the person who, the dedication to, and who won the prize, so that person had it. I kind of like these. They're not worth a lot of money, generally speaking, but I really do like them. And this was kind of nice. It's got gilt edge all the way around, and it's just full of essays. I don't know who Hugh Miller is, but it says the author of the Old Red Sandstone, My Schools and Schoolmasters. That could be interesting. The Testimony of the Rocks, etc. And as I say, it's got a preface by a Peter Bain. I think it's Bain. Yeah, Bain. And essays are The New Year, The Infant Prince, Remains of Napoleon, Jeanne d'Arc, Lord Jeffrey, Edinburgh, An Age Ago, the Burns Festival, and Hero Worship. So these are historical and biographical, political and social, our working classes. There's some great, I haven't read them all. There's in literary and scientific, criticism for the uninitiated. That could be interesting. I've read a few of them. I think I might keep this one aside to peruse it a little bit. So let's move on to the next one. There's only a couple more here. There's a few more that I'm going to use, because I don't want to get really, really ultra new, So, this is The Pleasures of Life, Part 1. So I'm assuming, this is Volume 1. But it's more or less essays. It's the Right Honourable Lord Avebury. And this is getting new. This is 1904. I have a lot of other 1800s books, but these are the ones, 19th century. I have probably several hundred. But I thought I'd bring out the big guns, the leather-bound ones, and this is leather-bound as well. Look at that tooling and gilding on the spine and around the edge. But this is it's And this guy, this Right Honorable Lord Avebury is, and it goes, Trustee, a British Museum, blah, blah, like it just goes on and on what this guy did. Did he ever sleep? So it's 1904, Macmillan and Company. This is essays and so forth. I think The Duty of Happiness, The Happiness of Duty, A Song of Books, A Choice of Books, A Blessing of Friends, A Value of Time, The Pleasures of Travel, The Pleasures of Home, Science and Education. But it is part one. Again, like you get a lot of stuff that are part sets because they're cheap. And while they do wind up being cheap in price because they're not complete. And sometimes it doesn't matter because like essays, that doesn't really matter. Now here's another one with the school stamp on the front being a prize. And this is what's called 3/4 leather because it's got a leather spine and the leather corners. Quarter leather would be just the spine, like we saw with the essays book. And this is Christ Hospital from the gift of George Moore, Esquire, a governor of the hospital, 1849 to 1876. A prize intended as an encouragement to the attainment of knowledge of the Holy Scriptures, awarded to G.R.C. Fairley, Preparatory School, Class 4. And what is this, you ask? This is the complete poetical works of William Cooper. Cooper, I think is the correct pronunciation. Edited by H.S. Milford, M.A. Henry Froude, Oxford University Press, 1907. So again, we're moving forward here. And it's just this complete poems of the time. Not too bad. They're small print, but it's not too bad. At least it's not double columned as some of these are. And it's got nice marbling on the page edges instead of gilt, and marbled end papers, which is very nice. And there is I can't read it, it's darkened, but there is a binder's sticker at the bottom, on the bottom of the back board on the inside, which was common. And this is an interesting cloth that's on here. It's very tactile. It's almost as if it's jeans, like blue jeans. I don't think it is, but you never know. Now, the last book that I'm going to show is a smaller one. And again, it's another prize book. It's very nice. It's got an anchor, and it's the Sigil Offi Maj Admiri Maj whatever. And it's the Royal Navy College Keam Admiralty Prize. Third prize, I guess it is, yeah. Term Ordet Total Marks at Keesham, awarded to Cadet O.P. Powell. And I have looked up, and I could never find out who O.P. Powell was. Whether he actually... I think I found something that possibly could be him, but the dates quite didn't match up. But yeah, it's a nice sticker in there, book plate, and again, marbling. And look at the detail around the edge, the gold detail of the leather that's folded around. And this was published... it's the 28th edition, 1916, so just pre-World War I. It's The Seven Seas by Rudyard Kipling, Methuen and Company. So 1916. It's a nice frontispiece there, and nice decoration around the edge. I don't think there's any illustrations inside. No. This one has gilt edging, and you can see on the edging of the leather as well. It's all tooled. That's very nice. And around the edges, a nice tooling in the imprint of the corners, the rosettes. The rosettes around the corners. And again, the rosette, or floral, I guess you call that a rosette. And red, and the tooling is just it's very nice. A Kipling poetry book. So yeah, so there you go. So I do have, hundreds of 19th century books. various ages, but mostly, I guess, the cloth-bound ones would be from 1830 and upward, and just lots of, you know, early 20th century books as well. So I just thought I'd show these, and just all in fun, but you know, yeah. And if you want to use this, we'll call this almost like a tag video. Actually, it could be a tag, which is kind of neat, but it's a one question tag. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, BookTube, and I'll see you next time.